Joining us now is Coach Greg Lovelady, who's the head baseball coach at Central Florida and the former head baseball coach of the Wright State Raiders here in Dayton. Coach, thank you for joining us.
I'm glad you had me. I'm excited to be here.
So you're a former player, former national champion at Miami, Florida in 99 and 01. As a former player, is there anything that you take from your playing days and kind of implement it into your coaching style today?
I think, of course. I think just as you get as a player, you're learning so much from a coaching staff. And so I think that, really the base of my coaching is a lot of the things that I learned as a player at Miami. And then also the fact that, how good we were and how to win championships. And that's always been a big part of my coaching philosophy and things that I learned there. I think definitely, somebody that would know college baseball really well, if they watched our teams play and me as a coach, I think they would say that, that's somebody that's in the University of Miami Hurricane coaching tree kind of thing. So, I definitely think that a big base of that comes from that. Now, I've changed a lot as a coach for my entire career and implemented new things. So it's definitely not 100% the same. This program, with the program I ran at Wright State and the program that I'm running here at UCF, like it's not cut and paste from what we did at Miami, but there is a lot of similarities and the foundation is very similar.
From a recruiting standpoint, what is something that you what is one of your big selling points on when bringing high school seniors to Orlando?
Well, I think one, we try to individualize everything. I think that's a big thing. I think a lot of places just cookie cutter their programming for how they're going to develop kids. And I think that every kid develops it differently. And so we have some core value stuff that is non-negotiable, but the rest of it is a base of what us and the kid can come up with to try to make them better, what they like, what they don't like. Obviously doing a lot of different screening and things like that, and then trying to program what does this individual kid need. And so I think we try to differentiate ourselves a lot by doing that. And then secondly, just trying to make sure that they understand that we try to put players first and that we are trying to provide an experience that they're going to talk about for the rest of their life. And I think a lot of places get caught up in winning and having the best players and just about the coach and about, winning. And I think that our belief is that if we do all the other things right, that winning takes care of itself. And so really having the experience doesn't mean we don't get on guys, we're not pushing guys, but making them understand that it's going to be about them and development is going to be put at the forefront and making sure that they, at the end of the day, reach the goals that they want to reach on a personal level and from a team standpoint while they're here. And so that when they're sitting at the dining room table with their kids in 20 years, like I want them to be bragging about the experience that they had. That's the way we want to do it at Wright State. And that's kind of, we've carried that over here at UCF.
When it comes to your coaching style, are you more of an old school style coach where you're more of a small ball kind of guy, or more of a new modern type of coach where you kind of preach your launch angle?
Well, I think I sack bunt a lot less than I used to. But I'm not against bunting either. I think that there's times and places for it. We do sack bunt a lot. It just depends on the hitter and the situation. And, a lot of it goes into that thought about who we're facing, what I believe the score is going to be that day. It's going to be a 1-0 game. I believe we're going to have two top pitchers going head to head on the mound, and every run is like, diamonds, you know what I mean? Then we got to sack bunt maybe in the first inning. If I think the score is going to be 8-7, like on a Sunday game, then that might not be the best option. We got to play for multiple runs and not one run. So, my goal is, we don't really talk about launch angle a lot. Again, I think that's an individualized thing. I think a lot of people see it in the big leagues where you go watch a big leaguer take BP. Every single big leaguer is hitting home runs like every other ball in a big league batting practice. Where we got kids that can't even hit the ball to the warning track and hit the ball over one time in batting practice. So launch angle for that guy is a really bad idea when you can't actually get the ball out of the ballpark. Now you got a guy, and Josh Donaldson was the first guy that really kind of got into this launch angle stuff. But Josh Donaldson could just launch balls whenever he wanted to. Problem was in the game he wasn't trying to. He was trying to get on top of baseballs and hit ground balls or line drives where, he needed to be able to try to get the ball in the air and use that power that he had. So for big leaguers, it can change a little bit. So I think there's guys that we talk about trying to get the ball in the air more, and there's guys that we talk about trying to get on top and hit line drives and ground balls and utilize their speed. And but for us, offensively, we want to be dynamic. I want a little bit of everything. I want to be able to bunt when we need. If the wind's blowing in 20 miles an hour, like, you better be able to bunt. At the niche, like, there's not a lot of bunting going on with the wind blowing out and balls flying out to left field. So. But when that wind is blowing in, like, and you can't hit home runs that day, like, you better have another way to win the game. If you're like, oh man, this pitcher's really good, or the wind's blowing in and we can't hit home runs, like, we're screwed. Like, then you have no chance of winning the game. But if you're dynamic and you can bunt and you can steal and you can hit for power and you can hit for doubles and you have a little bit of everything, to me, that just makes the lineup super relentless. It makes every day relentless, where it doesn't matter who's on the mound, what the weather's like, what kind of ballpark it is, if it's a small ballpark or a big ballpark. Like, we have ways to win and find ways to score runs.
So what is something that you took from your time at Wright State and use it when you're coaching now?
Well, again, I think that in terms of how I recruit and the things that are important to me in terms of the development, that was all, I cut my teeth on that at Wright State. I took over as the head coach. I hired two unbelievable people in Jeff Mercer and Justin Parker. They both played for me. We were all friends. So there was a relationship there, but I ended up hitting 2 home runs. I mean, those are 2 of the, Justin's now the pitching coach at South Carolina. Jeff is the head coach at Indiana. Everybody's super successful. And in my 3rd year, Matt Tallarico, who's now a base running coordinator for the Yankees and an assistant hitting coach in the minor leagues. But Justin and Jeff, when we sat down, when we hired them, and we put together this recruiting plan, this recruiting model about trying to get athletic, trying to really care about nutrition, trying to build the big engines, and trying to develop. And that was a huge success for us. And so everything that I do now is based off of what we decided. And we had to tweak some things here and there in those 3 years, but I really felt like we had kind of mastered this development from a nutritional side and a baseball side and a strength side. And we built this synergy of the weight room and the baseball field, and the nutrition part of it and the mental game. And we really built this synergy not only from a coaching staff and a support staff, but just kind of adding or putting all those pieces together and really being able to take kids that were underdeveloped physically, but were athletic, and then making them fast twitch, making them even more athletic, but then also teaching them how to play baseball. And it just gave us to be very physical, very athletic, very dynamic, being able to throw harder. And we just started recruiting to that model and then developing those players, but it was all about development from a lot of different ways. And I have taken that and done the same thing here at UCF. And so, again, the base of my recruiting and the philosophy in terms of what kind of athletes we're going to be and what kind of athletes we're going to recruit and how we're going to develop them, that was all cut at Wright State.
What were some of your favorite aspects of Wright State, whether it's the campus, the local community, or any of your, like, some of your favorite moments that you had?
Yeah. One, I love the area. Being a native Floridian, coming to the Midwest, like, it's just is unbelievable people. And that's just not about Wright State, but just the entire Dayton community and Beaver Creek where I lived. And just Ohio in general. I just think the people are tremendous. It's just a different, kind of feel like the Bible Belt, like just Midwestern people are different. And that's definitely something that I miss. And not that the people in Florida and Orlando are bad people. It's just, there's just a difference about Midwesterners, just kind of the kindness and the Christian values and just how generous people are. And it's just a really cool place to live. Obviously I got to raise my kids there for the beginning of their lives. And we just met so many, my wife is originally from there, but we just met so many good people. And so definitely the area and the people, obviously the athletic department at Wright State, there's just a lot of people that have been there for so long. And obviously that starts at the top with what I think is one of the best ADs in the entire country, and Bob Grant. Just salt of the earth people. And but people like Sarah Hill and Joylyn Brown. You have all these people that have been at Wright State for a while, that understand Chris Bethel. They're just people that you could just build relationships with and really kind of try to build the athletic department together. And it's not as huge athletic department where everyone was involved in everything. Where you get to these bigger athletic departments, you have one person that's in charge of one thing. And so there's just a lot more hands in on the deal. But at Wright State, you just felt like you had people that cared about your program and were so invested in trying to make it as good as it possibly could with the restrictions that we had from a financial standpoint. But definitely the area and the people in the athletic department, and it's just different. And again, just the people. When you recruit those kind of people, when you're Midwestern and especially Ohioans, like, then you have those families on your team. Like, we just built this family atmosphere that wasn't just about the players, but it was about the parents. And when you have Midwestern people, man, it's a lot easier to do that. And so I definitely miss that aspect of it. I mean, obviously none of the players that I recruited are there anymore, but just missing that family that we had built there was so special, and something that I'm going to hold dear to my heart for the rest of my life.
When you first got into coaching, did you have somebody that was sort of a mentor to you?
Yeah, I mean, obviously Jim Morris, who's just retired a couple of years ago, was my coach at the University of Miami. He had built a great junior college in Georgia, and then he built Georgia Tech into a powerhouse, and he comes to Miami and he continues the legacy that Coach Frazier had built. And so obviously he was a big part of my life. And then, actually the two other coaches there were Gino DeMario, who's now the head coach. He's been there for forever, but took over for Coach Morris. I mean, he's been a huge supporter of mine and just a huge sounding board as when I was learning this game. And he really had my back early on in my career when I was coaching there and my first couple of years at Wright State. I mean, he was a big reason why I got the job. Mark Kingston, who's now the head coach at South Carolina. He was my catching coach there for my last 2 years at Miami. He went to Tulane, and then he was the head coach at Illinois State, and then South Florida, and then now he's at South Carolina. Has been a huge mentor of mine, a huge person that I lean on for a lot of different things. And then obviously Rob Cooper really changed the thought process as I had as a coach, and hiring me obviously set me on a path to where I am today. But him and his wife, Mo, were two of the biggest influences in my entire life. And just kind of changed the way I looked at college baseball, changed the way I looked at a coach's job. And, I just kind of always thought coaching was coach the players and try to win. And now Coop just again, and Mo, just the way that they invested in kids' lives and really, used our profession to make better people, and to not worry about the next 4 years of the player's life, but worry about the next 40 years of the player's life. And being able to be around him and just see that philosophy just kind of changed my focus on what I thought coaching was. And it's still about winning and still about developing players on the baseball field, but I spend so much more time making sure that they're going to be great husbands and fathers and, better brothers and sons, and really set them up to live the life that they want to live, and hopefully bring them closer to God. Try to do all those different kinds of things. I wouldn't have had that mindset if I didn't coach for Rob Cooper at Wright State.
When you look back on not only your coaching career, but also your playing career, what are some of your favorite moments that you've had over the years?
It's easy to pick the national championships. I think, obviously, those things are, I grew up at Miami. I grew up at the field as a fan first, and seeing a couple teams win national championships when I was 6, 7, 8 years old. And then following all these players, idolizing them, wanting to get autographs, and then being able to get on the other side of the fence and be the one that's having to sign the autographs and having fans recognize you in town and all that kind of stuff. And being able to win a national championship, dreaming about that for my entire life. I sat in the backyard, not saying Game 7 of the World Series, but I said national championship game in Omaha at Rosenblatt Stadium with canes across my chest. That was a dream of mine. So to be able to go and actually live that dream, how many people get to do that? How many people have this vision of what their life is going to be like and actually get to do it almost the way you expect it? And I didn't go to Miami saying I want to play in the game. I just said I want to ride the coattails and get a national championship ring and say that I was a national champion, let alone I get a chance to start in both national championship games. That wasn't even part of my, you know what I'm saying? So, so just to be able to live my childhood dream out the way that I wanted to, I don't think I understood at the time But as I got older, realizing like how lucky I was that like I got to do that, and how many people want that dream and have had that dream, and just how many people have dreams in general that never matriculate the way that they wanted to. And to be able to say that I did it, like, is really something special to me. So, you know, obviously the two regional finals at Wright State were huge as a coach. Just to be able to, you know, Coop and I spent 9 years together trying to build that thing, and we got to go to three regionals. Never won a game in a regional, and trying to break through that, and then be able to do that with two former players, and Jeff and Justin, and building what we did, and to be a top, you know, 30 or 40 program in the entire country, and beat all the teams that we did, and do all the things, and all the draft guys, and really take Wright State from where we got it in the fall of 04, to what we were able to finish in the spring of 16, and 12 seasons there. Like, really to build it and see it through to a certain extent, like, was really rewarding for me as a person, as a coach, and really just to see the joy in the Wright State baseball alums, and especially the guys that I coached, and obviously the players on that team. And it was pretty remarkable. We built a lot of cool relationships that, you know, I still talk to most of the Wright State players on a monthly basis, and that means a lot to me.
Coach, I can't thank you enough for your time. I really appreciate it. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, appreciate you having me. I miss that place, and a lot of good people there, and that I still follow and talk to. So I enjoy coming back and being able to relive some of those days.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for watching The Perspective on WWSU 106.9. Be sure to check us out on YouTube and follow me on Twitter @Parker Testa.